Hello? In today's South Korean action film, a tough ex-mafia man was already about to put an end to crime, but suddenly he had to go on one last job. However, this time not for profit, but to save the woman he loves and tear her from the hands of kidnappers. Get ready, you are in for breathtaking moments and bone-crushing action. The film begins with the ordinary routine of a Korean fish market. In the first shots, we see the main character, the muscular Kan, and his partner Chun-sik. At their new job, the former gangster's life goes on as usual. The stalls are filled with goods, porters and staff bustle about. Kan and his partner make their living, and seem to be content with what they do. But at the end of the shift, Director Kan shows up at the market with two of his bodyguards. They pressure one of the tenants for being late with the payment. "Yeah, we're done for today. You're going to keep this up? Wait a little longer." "Wait for what?" "I've already waited long enough." They behave more like the mafia than businessmen. Kan and his friend watch the unfolding scene from the sidelines and do not interfere. His partner notes that the director has been receiving goods without paying for a long time. But Kan does not want to escalate the conflict. Together they bow to the man as he passes by. "We delivered all the goods to the stalls." "Good. Good job." Suddenly, Director Park calls and offers to meet urgently. Together with his partner, they go to meet a certain successful businessman, Lee, and Director Park. They suggest that the pair join in a supposedly profitable business. Both say the deal is reliable. The return rate of the enterprise exceeds even winning at a casino. At most 6 months, and all your investments will be returned. Then the businessman shows the goods. It turns out to be a giant crab, and in prospect, another 5,000 king crabs. All of them are on a ship heading to South Korea. Lee and Director Park promise to deliver such enormous delicacy dwellers of the deep for sale. The businessman promises mountains of gold and says that all the goods can easily be spread around the market. For one crab he promises 200 to 300,000 won. That is huge money for a former gangster now working as a porter. The businessman, quite pleased with himself, leaves the crab as a gift for Kan. To him, the deal looks like a sure thing. Lee also insists that laborers like them will definitely profit from such an investment. Meanwhile, Kan's wife, Jisoo, is doing everything she can to earn for the family and works at 2 jobs at once. In the evening, the spouses meet and discuss their day. They look happy and tenderly care for each other. But they work so much that they end up eating their dinner on the way home. It seems that the man with a rich criminal past has finally found himself in family life. "I am very happy and grateful that you are now living a quiet, peaceful life." Kan's wife wants their quiet idyll to continue. It turns out this was not his first reckless venture. The ex-gangster's beloved does not share Kan's desire to make quick and easy money. Kan lies in response, saying he never intended to do such a thing. The next scene takes place in the apartment of a man named Kim Moo. Gangsters burst in, intending to kill him. The poor man is saved only by his daughter, who comes home just in time. But the mafia boss, Ki-tae, and his men take the girl hostage. Kim himself is left with a knife wound. The father remains at home, alone and desperate. On the way, Ki-tae's car, driven by his chauffeur Do-sik, collides with Kan's vehicle. The lovers are unharmed. Kan gets out and tries to explain to the driver that he must now call the police. In the back seat, Ki-tae tries to hide the kidnapped girl from prying eyes. The chauffeur casually suggests to the former gangster that they settle things amicably, so to speak, in a gentleman's way. But Kan insists on doing everything by law. At this, the situation begins to heat up. Kan, calmly and without shouting, stands his ground. Seeing what is happening, Jisoo intervenes. She immediately catches Ki-tae's eye. He silently watches the whole scene from the back seat, smoking. When the matter almost ends with a call to the police, the mafia boss himself gets out of the car and intervenes. Ki-tae drops a couple of compliments to Jisoo and apologizes to the couple. Kan says he will settle everything with insurance and get in touch with him. He does not take any money. The next day Kan goes to the director to collect the debt for the goods. but the bundle contains less than it should. Things are not going well for Kan. A month later, Kan discusses their crab investment with Chunsik. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by a long-awaited phone call. It turns out the ship carrying the promised crabs is stuck in China. It seems that the two friends' investment has just gone up in smoke. The situation is made worse by problems with paying for their housing. At the bank, Jisoo is told, "Your husband apparently hasn't solved the collateral problem." When Kan's wife leaves the institution, she is followed. In the evening, the couple meet in a restaurant for a celebratory dinner. It is Jisoo's birthday. But the evening does not go well. Jisoo is ready to do anything to scrape together at least some money. She even mentions that divorce would entitle her to financial compensation, but the former gangster refuses, saying he will somehow handle their problems. He also admits to her about his failed business with the king crabs. The girl is so angry with him that she cannot contain herself. On the way home, she does not answer when Kan calls her. She only sends a message. Later, she softens a little, but then something terrible happens. Kan does not yet suspect that intruders have broken into their home. By that time, however, his wife has already been kidnapped. At home, he finds only devastation. Behind the crime stands K. The detective says he will call Kan as soon as something becomes known. Outside the police building, Chunsik is waiting for him. He hasn't been able to find out anything either. Suddenly, the desperate man receives a call from the kidnappers. Kite proposes that Kan meet him alone. He tells him to arrive at 2 o'clock at the place indicated on the business card. The card is pinned to the refrigerator in the former gangster's apartment. Kan immediately goes to the location. Chunsik watches him from the car. The man takes the table suggested by the concierge. Across from him sits no one, but there is a woman's handbag and a phone. For 40 minutes, nobody shows up. Suddenly, the mobile phone on the table begins to ring. On the other end, Kite tells Kan to open the bag lying on the chair beside him. Naturally, Kan is not satisfied with such an exchange. He thinks he sees Kite getting into a car near the restaurant, and rushes off in pursuit. However, he is mistaken and grabs the wrong man. Kan returns to the police, but there they hardly listen to him and merely extort money. The investigators feed him empty promises. 2 days have already passed since the kidnapping. Wait a little longer. If there is any news, we will contact you immediately. At the station, Kan sees many portraits of missing girls. At that moment, he decides to take everything into his own hands. In the evening, he visits the director who owes him money. The investigation requires funds, but he does not find any understanding from his counterpart. The former mafioso is forced to act decisively. Methodically and without difficulty, he takes down the director's entire entourage. Even his strongest bodyguard breaks under the pressure of the enraged Kan. Taking his hard-earned money, Kan and Chunsik go to an old acquaintance. That man works as a private detective. "If you deal with this, I'll give you 5% from here." Kan leaves all his money, and Chunsik, for motivation, adds part of his share from the crabs. The bloodhound agrees, immediately demonstrates his talents, and finds the first clues. There she is. Exactly. Zoom in, zoom in. Okay. That's it. Kan, the private detective, and Chunsik immediately set off to the given address. There they are greeted by a decent-looking house. The former gangster decides to go inside, but there is no one he is looking for. Neither the girl, nor the kidnappers. "So you sold your name for 500? We needed money. I couldn't pay my debts." Still, the trio obtains important information, an address where people leave their license plates for the mafia in exchange for money. At the parking lot, they are unexpectedly approached and invited inside to back rooms. The host leads them into an underground casino. After some time, a well-dressed lady appears to Kan and his companions. In this secret establishment, various criminal dealings are settled. The businesswoman in white refuses to answer questions and assumes they are cops.